Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our review of The Blacklist, Season 9, Episode 22, the finale. We are at the conclusion of Marvin Gerard Conclusion Part 2. That is still a mouthful, and wow, do we have a lot to talk about.
Goodbye, Fisher Stevens. It's really sad to see him leaving the show. I knew it was coming. I think we all knew it was coming, but he was a staple of the show for a long time.
Yeah, and he's such a good actor.
Yeah.
Like, him and Spader were great in all of their scenes together. I at least feel like because we all knew that this was coming, we could kind of all take our time and savor these moments and kind of build up to a proper goodbye until you hopefully show up on the next season of Succession. Fisher,
Yep.
producers of Succession, don't let us down.
Oh man, I hope he's not leaving that show too. No, I don't think he is.
No. Well, we've got a million things to talk about here. A huge cliffhanger. What's happening with the task force. We each have there's a pretty significant beef with this episode too that we have to talk through. But before we go further, go ahead, hit that subscribe button. We are, of course, covering the Blacklist. We'll be here throughout season 10. Don't worry about that. Also, earlier today, Jess and we dove headfirst into Obi-Wan Kenobi on Disney Plus. It was such a good time. Like, even if you're not like a diehard Star Wars super fan and maybe you're just sort of a casual viewer who has checked out the movies, like, you're still really going to love these first couple of episodes. So go and check them out and watch it along with us. We're having such a good time. So hit that subscribe button.
Also, if you are looking for another really good mystery show to sort of start getting you through the summer, we are going to be covering Only Murders in the Building with Steve Martin and Martin Short here at the channel. The first season's already on Hulu, and the second season is coming out at the end of June. It is so good, and we know you love a good mystery, and so do we. So we are going to be covering that here, so make sure you hit that subscribe button.
Okay, Can we just start with the cliffhanger? Because the cliffhanger is getting me really, really hyped up here.
All right, let's start with the cliffhanger.
Okay, the idea of seeing a lot of blacklisters from the past sort of resurface in some capacity, as much as I love this about as much as the Blacklist is going to give us a storyline in season 10, unless that storyline was actually telling us who Raymond Reddington really is. Like, this is really good. It's going to be great. It's going to be nostalgic for a lot of longtime fans. I just hope they get some, good, notable past Blacklisters back.
Yeah, now that everything with Liz is really squared away, it feels like this is a good way to still pay back to all of us fans who have been watching this for all these years, to have this sort of new Blacklist that Marvin, gave away here as sort of like here's all these other people that Reddington screwed over while working for the FBI. You're welcome. It's going to be very cool to see that payoff.
I am going to suggest a new name for all of us for this list. It is the Marvin list. This way, Marvin Gerard's spirit will continue to live on beyond the grave.
Right.
Also, we're already kind of starting the Marvin list here. Wu Jing back from the early days of season 1.
Yep.
This was the deepest of deep pulls. That was really fun. I think the entire sort of build up to this reveal, a lot of us kind of saw it was coming. You and I, we've already talked a lot about this.
Yeah, they kind of revealed somewhat in the synopsis from last week that something like this was going to be coming up. And I think it was inevitable at some point that the people that Raymond helped put away were going to find out that he was working with the task force. It was really only a matter of time. The fact that he's gotten away with it for this many years, it's kind of, remarkable.
The thing that I'm the most sort of curious about now, and granted, there's a lot of time to think about this because it doesn't sound like next season's on until early next year,
I know.
is who is going to be the person to really organize everything? Yes, Wu Jing for now has the Marvin list, but still, there is the number 2 spot still vacant. I'm not forgetting about this. Whoever number 2 is, I think they are going to be the head of these criminals coming together in some way.
Definitely could be.
It could be the real Katerina Rostova. There we go.
All right. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the memorial or the sort of visiting of Liz's grave at the end of this episode, because it was really touching. I loved hearing all sort of the memories and the stories, and I was really missing Reddington being there. We've seen task force members come back and visit her grave throughout this season, and there's been a couple times I've been like, man, it would have been really nice to see Reddington there. He is part of this with them. Yeah, he's, a criminal, whatever, but I mean, they're all flawed. They could all be there together. And I know that he's a wanted criminal, but he seemingly goes wherever he wants. He's buying pretzels on the street, doing whatever he wants. And, he is still okay. So he could have shown up for that. And I feel like, he's like, oh, I'm going to take the sisters away, whatever. It's like, okay, you could have gone and done that and looked up at the stars and done what you were going to do.
Yeah.
But you could have taken those few moments to go and sort of pay your last respect so that we could sort of just have that feeling that he's also going to move on.
I totally agree. For some reason, it doesn't feel like we have a lot of scenes where like the entire cast is all in one place. Mm-hmm. That would have been a really good moment to see sort of, a Reddington and Wrestler moment, for example. These two guys who have been in such opposition, but they have this shared love of Liz, and this is a chance for the two of them to really bond. Like, I'm grateful that we still had a moment between Cooper and Reddington, but it just sort of feels like it would have been such like an emotional high point for a lot of us, and we all could have said goodbye. I don't know if we're supposed to take this now as like, okay, is Reddington really over Liz? Will he ever be over Liz? But it's just like, okay, for us as viewers, we kind of needed this.
Yeah, and I feel like he needs to be over Liz now. Like, now is the time for all of us to be able to move into the new season and all this new stuff that's going to be happening. Because one of the things that I've seen as a complaint out there from some viewers, and a little bit in this episode for me too, is that his grief, Reddington's grief, has just changed him quite drastically, where he's a lot softer than he used to be. And that was one of the things in this episode that I was kind of like, I don't know. Like, we had wrestlers sitting with Marvin at one point kind of being like, if Cooper didn't need you, you and I'd be having a way different time going on in this car, meaning that he probably would have killed Marvin. And I believe he probably would have, actually. I mean, was the Boy Scout, but everything's not exactly as it seems with him. And that's where we get to sort of everything that actually happened with Red and Marvin. I mean, they set Marvin up to be like, he's taking over this empire. He's been doing it for years. And yeah, he's told Reddington before where he was like, my plan was never really to take over your empire. It's just, we had this talk about Liz so many times, and like she was going to run this into the ground with all the people that put in so much time and so much work, and you were just going to like let that happen. Where Reddington was like, I understand where you're coming from. I don't like it and I get it, but it's still my decision. We're not partners. I run this, you work for me, and I appreciated what you did for me, but you still were my employees. So even though I heard what you said, I still made the decision that I was going to make, and it wasn't your choice to take that.
This whole conversation with Reddington and, Marvin, like, it was phenomenal. There was so much weight and interesting stuff going on there. But then, all right, we're almost 9 minutes in. We are setting ourselves up perfectly now to deliver the big slice of beef that we have.
The biggest beef that's going on here is just that Reddington wasn't the person to kill Marvin. They had 15 minutes in that room, and all of a sudden Marvin was like, you know what? I'm tired, basically. You want to do this? Go ahead. Let's just have it out. I was like, what just happened? Like, you just hit a curve, and all of a sudden you're like, all right, just kill me, get it over with. And Reddington was really soft on him, way more soft than I legitimately ever thought he would be on the person who killed Liz.
Yes.
I just was like, how would he be like, okay, you know what? You didn't give this, grace to Liz. I'm going to give this to you where you can choose how you would like to die. And it won't, be by my hands. But if you don't choose a way to die and go and take care of that, I will come and kill you down the road. And I was just like, what? Why? Why would you do that? You've been hunting her killer for years. This is something that's like so important, has grieved you, has ruined you, and now you have the man who killed this love in your life, and you're just like, I'm gonna do you a solid. And I know, like, it's not a solid because of what happened with Marvin, but at the same time, I was just like, the Reddington we knew would never do that. And even the Reddington we know now, who is a bit softer and grieving and going through this process, still wouldn't do this. I just don't believe that he wouldn't have just pulled the trigger on him.
I'm shocked that he didn't kill him, and I'm trying to just like think back into my head and be like, okay, what did Reddington do with other traitors over the years? He shot Mr. Kaplan, and he thought he took care of Mr. Kaplan. He didn't check her body well enough after the fact that first time, but that still happened. He's thrown people out of airplanes. Like, I understand that he and Marvin had a really long-standing history,
but none of those people killed Liz.
Exactly. Like, that is the thing. It is like he did the most horrendous thing possible to Reddington. He took the person Reddington cared about more than anyone else in the world. And like, I've been trying to rationalize, okay, why did the writers decide to do this? And maybe it is as simple as, okay, Reddington needed to feel that he was different than Marvin, that he was not the same as Marvin. But you're already not the same as Marvin if you do it in this way. Because guess what? Marvin hired Van Dyke to do it. You would be doing it yourself. The biggest issue that I have with this, and it's a pretty big issue, is just Reddington is not someone who leaves something the chance. And the idea that he sort of made it so that Marvin could get back and spend even a second with someone like Wu Jing. And yes, I understand Reddington didn't know Wu Jing was there, but there are so many people the task force has put away over the years. There was more than 0% chance here that somebody bad could have come in contact with Marvin, and lo and behold, it happened.
Yeah, he does not leave things to chance, or at least he used to not do that. I mean, all kinds of things could have and did happen by letting Marvin decide when it was his time to go. And I mean, Marvin could have also decided not to do anything and to actually just go into hiding or, bring the criminal organization together further. He gave away the idea that, Reddington is working with the FBI. That was more than enough for him to then be able to go off and pick a number of things that he could have chosen besides what he chose to do to himself.
Yeah, and what he chose to do with himself, it's sad, it's really, really difficult. There's only certain terminology we can use here on YouTube to discuss it because of monetization standards. Yeah. So basically, Marvin unalived himself in that car.
Which I also kind of don't believe. It feels really, I don't know, just that would be the choice that he would make after all of this. And again, I understand Fisher Stevens needs to leave the show. That's fine or whatever. But him having a 15-minute conversation where Red is kind of like, okay, you have a choice. Either I can kill you or you can, unalive yourself. And he's like, all right, I'll just go do it myself kind of thing. I'm just like, what? Why? Years of dedication to this empire that you now run. And you're going to be like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll just go take care of this. I was like, what?
It's really bizarre because it's sort of like, the end of this episode, like the premise for season 10 is really exciting. And like that is solely because of Marvin having access to Wu Jing in that moment. But it's just sort of like, I think we're both sitting here being like, is there another way that twist could have come about? Like there had to have been another way that this could have happened that did not involve Reddington coming across as not as strong or as just, ruthless as he's been in the past, or Marvin choosing to end things the way that he did. It's just, that's sort of the big hole in this episode, which, this episode still so much better than the awful, horrendous ending of season 8, which I will never, ever get over.
Okay, so we need to talk about Park and Aram.
All right, so here's the thing, and this is the bad news that, we've literally just found out, is that both Amir Arison and Laura Sohn are leaving the show. Before Amir put a statement out the deadline or anything like that. I was just hoping, all right, there's gonna be some sort of like time jump, and he'll come back and it'll be okay. And it turns out not so much. It's still so sudden. I'm kind of having a hard time like processing my emotions that go along with it.
Yeah, we've been big fans of Amir here at the channel for forever. I mean, we love him. And so even when he was talking at the end of the episode where everybody was kind of giving their goodbyes and all that, I mean, it didn't sound permanent. He said, he's just going away for a little while and we'll see how it goes kind of thing. I'm like, okay, well, that doesn't sound as permanent as like what Park was saying, where she was kind of like, hey, so my headaches are because I'm pregnant, so I'm going to be taking some time off to, deal with that, deal with the headaches, and, afterwards, I don't know if I'll be coming back kind of thing. I might just want to be a mom and not work with the task force anymore. And I was like, okay, well, it feels like she's leaving, but it doesn't feel like, we're losing Amir.
I'll be honest, I was full on delusional. I thought everybody was going to stay and we would have a big happy family still moving forward. I mean, it sounds like Amir is leaving. It's been known that he's going to be doing Broadway and The Kite Runner. There was even kind of an Easter egg in this episode about Aram seeing a Broadway show. Yeah. I had just thought that, okay, he'll do the Broadway show and then he'll come back to the Blacklist. I mean, the door, I guess, is always open for either one of them moving forward. Here's the thing I'm worried about. This is a big shakeup to the chemistry of this show this far in. I know most people watch for James, but like the entire team does matter. So I'm a little bit concerned about what this is going to do.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we're going into a new era of the show. So, I mean, yeah, losing like half the task force, it's a lot. It's a lot. But things are changing now, especially with this sort of the Marvin list that's out there and sort of the dynamic of the show, because now that that's out there, Reddington's not really able to provide different criminals anymore because everyone's going to know what he's doing.
I'm going to miss Amir. Like, this makes me really sad. I love Amir so much. I love the Ram.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll have to just wait and see what happens. Maybe new people will be added over the summer. Can we talk for a moment about the sheer inglorious incompetence of the top of the FBI, where we have like Panabaker coming in at one moment and being like, all right, we're going to do this new deal here with Marvin's going to be there. And then like 10 minutes later, the end of the episode, Reddington, you got the job back.
That whole deal and that scene with Panabaker where Marvin was just like, you're going to make a new task force. You're going to get rid of all these huckleros. It's going to be me. It's going to be the Marvin list. And, you guys only really have 1% of everything that Reddington really has. I can give you more than that. Plus, then you can arrest Reddington, which is something that, the AG has wanted because, they look kind of stupid working with him, and he's getting away with all this stuff with the help of the task force, and it's like it's a win-win-win for everybody. Cooper was going to be set free, which he is, and it was all going to work out except for Reddington.
I gotta say, I love that Cooper seemingly has his job back. I love that the task force can kind of move forward in some way. But is there a more incompetent group of law enforcement individuals than the FBI on the Blacklist, who are just frequently like, what a dumpster fire this entire episode was for so many of them?
That's been our biggest criticism of the show, is that we love the task force, but they really are always like a couple steps behind or completely bungling everything. And I'm hoping that going into the next season that it's going to be a little bit different, because Reddington is kind of on everybody's blacklist now, that he's going to have to be working with them a lot more closely. So there should be a lot more wins.
In the end, I'm just happy there are, a couple of still interesting questions out there. We have to know what's going to happen with the Marvin list now that Wu Jing has it. There's also still the big question of Reddington's identity. Are they ever going to tell us?
I also just want to give a shout out to Wild Horses, Rolling Stones. It is my absolute favorite song. When they started talking about that and that scene with Cooper and Agnes and the horse, it got me all in my feels. It's so beautifully done.
And now we also know why Sony had no money additionally to promote
No
the remainder.
kidding.
They spent half of the budget on this show and getting the Rolling Stones on at the end of this season.
They ain't cheap.
No, they are not cheap at all. No, this was a really fun final stretch of this season. Like, I'm so glad we got it. I'm glad that, there was a lot of action and drama and yeah, a few problems with Reddington's actions, but overall, I mean, it's hard to complain that much.
No, I'm just hoping that now that everything is squared away with Liz, that he will take the time that he needs to take. And then when he comes back, he will be stronger than ever, because after seeing what just happened, where he just let Marvin go and decide to do whatever he wanted to do, I need the old Reddington to come back. Like, it's long overdue. I understand that he needed to grieve and that he was very broken and he needed answers. He has all of that now. So now it's time to move into a next new era.
One that hopefully involves them throwing somebody out of a helicopter? Like, I don't know. He's got to make a big statement in the first episode to kind of recover from this.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us, discussing the Blacklist all season. We have so much fun with you guys week after week. And we hope you stick around and enjoy our discussions of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Check those out. Give us some comments.
Yeah, we also are going to be covering The Boys. That's
Yep.
coming up next week. Animal Kingdom is coming up in June. We're going to be discussing Only Murders in the Building. So if you're really looking for another good sort of murder mystery type show, this is it. It is fantastic.
Yeah.
And so the first season is up on Hulu right now. The second season is starting at the end of June. And we will be covering that here at the channel.
So we hope you guys will join us there. Thank you so much, and we will see you next time.